On a break, then we prospects down. He's a football exec of great renown, breaking down the Bears like no one around. He's Greg Gabriel, and this is GTO. Welcome to break day, prospects down. He's a football exec of great renown, breaking down the Bears like no one around. It's Greg Gabriel, and this is GTO.
Welcome everyone to GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia. We've got a special show planned, but a quick programming note. We've got expanded draft coverage here on the Barroom Network, and the best way to stay on top of it is to subscribe to this YouTube channel at Barroom Network, or subscribe to my account on the X Machine at Barroom Network. We'll announce a bunch of exciting stuff coming up here very soon. Let's bring in Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my friend?
Real good. Have the grandkids here this weekend. That wears you out.
I bet. And then you get up at 4 a.m. in the morning to work on this show.
They had to drive back to Buffalo, so they left early because of all the snow we got here.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Where did they text you and tell you about where they're at?
my daughter sent me this thing. It's it's like an ongoing GPS thing.
Yeah,
so it tells me exactly where she's at.
That's awesome. All right. Tell us about the guest we're going to bring in here now.
Yeah, Mike Renner, who Notre Dame grad, works for CBS, was with PFF, and he also does work with me and a couple other guys scouting for the East-West Shrine Bowl. And he does great work for CBS doing draft analysis, and he was kind enough to give us some of his time today.
Yeah, and if people can't tell who he is, he's the guy in the middle here who looks about 40 years younger than Greg and myself. There he is. Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing great, fellas. Thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Hey, Mike, did you go down to Dallas for the game at all?
I did, yeah. I was down there.
Okay. I didn't want to go. I got too much stuff going in here because the agents are just piling me up with stuff. I'm already way deep into next year.
Because I got stuck at the airport for 2 days. I was supposed to go to the Senior Bowl afterwards. I didn't even make it to the Senior Bowl. The weather was so bad. So I had to just take a flight right back. So pretty brutal afterwards, but it was nice being down there.
Fantastic. Here's what we're going to do. You and Greg are going to talk some football. I'm going to go behind the scenes, collect some questions from the chat, and then I'll be back in about 15, 20 minutes or so, and then I'll join the conversation. Have a great time talking about the game, about prospects. Talk to you later.
Okay, what I want to ask you about, because you do a really good job with this, is, two of the Bears' biggest needs are edge and safety. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of fans will say defensive tackle, but from talking to a couple scouts with the Bears, they signed 2 defensive tackles in free agency. And what was interesting in the conversation was that what I thought they were looking for isn't what they were looking for. They don't want, like the Ohio State kid. I don't know if he's a fit. I don't know if Hunter's a fit. They're looking for the real athletic penetrator guy who can, disrupt the defense more than the big grunt, hold the line of scrimmage, run stopper type guy. So when they signed those 2 guys, now they got 4 under contract, and they could have 5 if you count Shamar Turner from last year as a tackle. He could be moved outside to edge. So I'm thinking that early on, they got to get at least 2 safeties, and they got to get at least 1 edge. and I know those are the primary positions.
Yeah, and the penetrators in this draft class, I mean, it made sense to sign them because there's not any in this draft class, right? Those interior guys, there's a lot of nose tackles. There's a lot of big body guys, but not a lot of guys with real juice. I could probably count them on one hand.
Yeah, I mean, you got the Penn State kid, who I think is one thing about Penn State, and tell me if you agree or not. These guys, you look at like Durant's tape from a year ago. He really looked like he was going to be an excellent player this year. He dropped off. Danny Dennis Sutton dropped off. The thing I thought was interesting is Dennis Sutton really wasn't productive until Franklin got fired. Then he has 6 sacks in the last 5 games, which I don't know if there's had anything to do with Franklin getting fired, but it was just kind of odd that the production picked up as soon as the coach gets fired.
Well, there's a few programs that I don't want to say I hate watching the prospects, but like I just feel as if over the past decade or so, the guys who are in that program are almost the same from freshman year to junior year to senior year. It's the two that come to mind. One is Penn State, the other one's Clemson. I just feel like I don't see guys out of those two programs. It always feels like we're talking about them as top prospects as either their freshman year or sophomore year, and then they're kind of the same guys their junior year. And that's how I felt a lot about tonight. Dennis Sutton coming out of there, Zane Durant coming out of there. I'm like, I watched these guys 2 years ago, and they had the same pros and cons. They look like the same prospects. So they always end up testing great at the combine, the Penn State guys, but those two really underwhelmed on tape, in my opinion. They just did not make the impact that their testing numbers suggested. But Sutton's an interesting one because edge specifically doesn't take, when you have what he has, so he's like 6'6", I think, really long arms, tested off the charts. He had a sub 7.3 cone at like 260 pounds, all really elite numbers. But then you watch him on tape and he's one of those guys where you wouldn't have guessed it, right? I don't think if you would.
I agree with you.
You wouldn't.
I thought he was going to be a 4.7 guy, 4.72 guy. Not real quick, not real sudden. And the other guy that I thought was like that, we'll get to it, is the Central Florida kid, Lawrence. He tests off the chart, 4.52, 10.10 or 10.11 in the broad jump, 41 inches in the vertical. And I'm going, I liked him on tape, but I didn't see that kind of athleticism.
Yeah, and I'm always wary of those guys who they test great, but down in, down out, you don't see it like that. I thought with Lawrence, you maybe saw more flashes. Like you saw some high end where it's like, he gets around and all of a sudden he's closing in a blink of an eye. With Dennis Sutton, it's just there were so many missed opportunities on tape. He's a really bad finisher, even when he does win, that to me, he could even, he's a late day 2 to early day 3 guy for me. Whereas I think Malachi Lawrence, the UCF rusher, he's a firm day 2, mid day 2 that I think he can actually develop into something in time.
No, I agree with that. I just thought with those two guys in particular, when you saw their numbers and you compare their numbers to the tape, because that's what you always do, and you go, well, I'm not seeing that. I like what I saw on tape, but I didn't see that kind of athleticism.
How do you deal with those guys? Because you like we said, we both kind of, you all the time in the scouting calls would say, I see him as a 4.6 guy or a 4.5. You put the numbers to him when watching him, and I do something similar. But how do you deal with the guys who are really far one way or the other when you're scouting them, where it's just like that? I just didn't see that kind of athlete on tape. I go back to a Notre Dame guy a few years back, Kevin Austin, wide receiver coming out of Notre Dame. I don't know if you remember his testing. Yeah. But he came out and ran like a 4.4, had like a 40+ inch vertical, just across the board elite athlete. And I'm like, I didn't see that at all. It didn't change his eval for me. I still had him as UDFA, and I think he ended up a UDFA. But I'm just curious how you deal with those things.
Well, like when I was with the Bears and the Giants, you go in and you've got different areas that you anticipate, always on a report. Every team does it. You've got like estimated speed and what their athleticism is and stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you get a guy, let's say you estimate a receiver at 4.53 or something, and then he comes in and runs a 4.38 or a 4.41, you're going, whoa. And what it makes you do really is go back and look at the tape. Mm-hmm. So did I miss something on tape? And then you confirm it one way or the other. Right? Well, he might have tested fast, and you got to take into consideration these guys are at a performance camp for 6 to 8 weeks doing nothing but get ready for that. So what you see at Indy, is that something that is manufactured or is it real? And the tape really tells what's real.
I think that's a good way to put it. The manufactured, and I'm always wary of track runners because it's the track running style is not how you run on a football field. It's not conducive to playing. It's not conducive to changing directions by design, right? It's you are trying to get as linear as possible, and that's just not how you play on a football field.
So what I want to do with some of these guys is really get your thoughts. I might agree or disagree, and I don't want to get into like a discussion like that, but just more, so for the people that listen, because you're pretty good at this, is what you think about some of these guys. So we'd already talked a little bit about, so why don't we start off with them with Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State?
So I think the biggest thing was, like I said, does not look like a guy with a 39.5-inch vertical, 10-11 broad, 6'9" cone. I just didn't see that, but he has a great body type. He can win with power. I think, it's like a 6 tech. You could really see him setting a hard edge in the running game and being an early down player. I just don't know if I saw a pass rushing upside from him, despite those numbers, because I don't see a twitchy mover. I see a very deliberate mover. I see a guy who lacks fluidity off the edge. And I saw just a really bad finisher in terms of whether he had opportunities to get sacks, opportunities to make plays on ball carriers. I just don't think he has that ability. He's just a little too herky-jerky when he has to play out in space. So as I said earlier, I think he's a late day 2, early day 3 sort of guy for me, despite those numbers being, that's kind of like what a top 10 pick sort of numbers would look like for a guy drafted off the edge. I just didn't see that at all.
Okay. Now I think I like him a little bit better. I think he's going to go day 2, and it wouldn't shock me if he goes in the second round. And part of it is the numbers, but also wouldn't shock me if he went in the second half of the third round. So, and I think this draft is loaded with people like that. So, really one team may have them high, another team may have them low, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's especially with these edge defenders. I mean, you sent me a full list, and I'm like, I could see any of a lot of these guys sent me going anywhere from sneaking in the top 50 to way back end outside of day 2 altogether.
Right. Okay, how about Gabe Jackas? Because he's semi-local, University of Illinois guy.
I think of this list, I think he is going to be my top guy of the ones you sent me. One, because for a senior, he's on the younger end. He hasn't turned 22 yet, so he's a younger senior. I think he has numerous ways to win as a pass rusher. I saw him win with power. I saw him win with speed. He's got a little bend, some creativity to his game. I wish he was a little bit more physical against the run. I saw, he's kind of a thickly built defensive end, right? I mean, played in the 260s range, but you really never saw him be a consistently hard edge setter, even though I think he could be. But I think because he has numerous ways to win, because he is a gifted all-around sort of athlete, and because he has twitch in his upper body, I think he can be a quality starter in the NFL. And so that's why none of these guys were even sniffing the first round in terms of my evals on them. But I think I feel good about drafting him somewhere middle of the second round.
One of the reasons I didn't give you some of those first round guys is, number one, the Bears are picking at 25, and that's kind of no man's land in this year's draft.
Yeah.
I think they didn't get the comp picks for Ian Cunningham. My own opinion is it's not a dead issue yet because Poles wouldn't talk about it. He said, I'll talk to you about it at the owners meeting. I think they're still trying to get those picks.
Which they should. I mean, 2/3 is crazy. That's like a second round value, early second value if you trade those two. Yeah.
Well, I know they haven't given up. But anyway, I think because they didn't get them, there's a good chance they're going to trade out at 25. And you can go down 8-9 slots and pick up a third, and you're not dropping off in a player.
Yes.
Say between 25 and 34.
And especially, again, I think this list that you sent me is very indicative of that. And the edge rushers, it's like very eye of the beholder in terms of which guy you draft at 35 and which guy you draft at 75. It might not be, the grade might not be dissimilar at all.
Okay. Now, the only thing about Jack is, I'm not going to say it bothers me, but he hasn't worked out yet. Didn't work out at the pro day last week. And he is working out. I talked to Chris Ballard on Thursday, I think it was. No, Friday, because I texted him. I said, why didn't Jack work out? He's rehabbing from an injury. He's got a pro day set up the 2nd of April. But he also said he's got an agent, and I got the agent's name written somewhere. I don't want to mention it. But he said it's an agent that's famous for not letting his guys run and do some things. So he may not do anything.
He did do bench, though, and 30 reps.
Yeah, and 30 was excellent.
That's a good number. So, yeah, I do want to see his testing, because I am of the opinion that it should be, it's like a selling point for me. For his size, 260, he should test like a good athlete for my eval on him to be firm where it is right now.
Now, the only thing is our buddy Eric Galko. I was talking to Galko last week, and he kind of said personality-wise, he's a little different. Now, I don't know the guy, so I don't know.
Different can be, I've heard different sometimes, and it's a good thing. Different sometimes is a bad thing. I remember, unfortunately, Jerry Tillery coming out of Notre Dame, he got the different personality-wise, and I think that ended up being negative for him at the next level. But sometimes different can be a plus, but usually it's not used in a good way.
No, I hear you. Okay, how about Malachi Lawrence?
Malachi Lawrence, like you said, he had the best testing numbers, I think, of this bunch. Pretty elite numbers. I mean, almost 4.5, almost 11-foot broad jump, like truly special in terms of the athlete and the explosiveness that he has. As I said earlier, you see it at times. You see him, if he swipes away the tackle's hands to the edge, he'll get to the quarterback, blink of an eye. He has that. The explosiveness does show up. I just think he is still a work in progress, which is concerning for an older guy already. He's lost against the run. There's so many times where he just doesn't know where the run's going, doesn't know how to read the tackle or whatever block's coming his way. He just doesn't play it well. I think there's ability there. There's ability there that's probably better than anyone else on this list in terms of, if you told me that all of them became, absolute technicians at the next level and got, a full move set, who would be the best? I think it's him. But it's concerning that he really doesn't have many moves. He's kind of just an effort rusher at this point. And I love the effort at times, but I need a little bit more from him. So he's still firmly in the sort of project, is what I would call him. Mid-day 2 is probably where I'd take him.
There's one thing that I saw on tape that was sort of concerning. There's times when he gets a sack and he just flat out beats the guy, and he beats him with speed and shows some bend. But there's other times when, if the quarterback doesn't have to run around and bide his time, it never would have been a sack, that he's really fighting a lot with the offensive tackle before he finally gets off the tackle and gets to the play, where that's never going to happen in the NFL. The ball's going to be out of the quarterback's hands. And I put that as a note, that it's just too much time hand fighting with the tackle instead of, being able to shed and get by him quick.
Yeah, and I think that goes to what I feel like, see it similar in terms of, I just think he wins with effort as opposed to cleanly executing a plan, play in and play out. He's kind of always, it's always a work in progress, him rushing the passer. It's never really clean when you watch him.
Okay, how about Young from Missouri?
Zion Young's one of the guys that it's been one of the more difficult evals, in my opinion, for at least myself. Just what I look for in an edge rusher, because he's 6'6", 260 plus, and he is a pure power player. I mean, he wins through opposing offensive linemen. That's his game. He's a bull rusher, pocket collapser, that sort of thing. But there's really no plan B. He doesn't have bend to the edge whatsoever. He's a very rigid sort of athlete at that size. You don't have to have it, but it's nice to have. If you are a good enough bull rusher, you can get by at the NFL level. But I don't know if I saw a guy who really can overpower NFL tackles consistently. I don't know if I saw that explosiveness. I don't know if I saw that speed to power, the ability to be flexible into your bull rush and continually walk back offensive tackles. But I love the way he plays. You know, I love that he wants to get physical. He knows where he wins, and he doesn't try to be something he's not. So I think he's kind of just a high floor, maybe lowish ceiling sort of edge rusher that you can get by with at the next level. I see him as a mid to probably a mid day two sort of guy that's somewhat scheme dependent. You need to be, 4-3 that really wants that kind of guy in your defense.
I saw some things in the one-on-ones in the Senior Bowl that I really didn't see on tape. So that tells you that it might be there. And can coaching at the NFL level make a difference with him and helping him be more productive? What have you had, 7.5, 8 sacks or something this year, when he could be a double digit in college? He should probably be a double digit guy.
And I will say, to his credit also, his legs, his thighs, his build is thick. He's 262, and I think he could get up into the 270s and it wouldn't even look crazy on him. He can hold a lot of weight. He is a big jumbo sort of defensive end.
Okay, then the last guy is Mesidor.
So Mesidor, I think he has the best tape of any of these guys.
I don't think he's going to be there at 25, but here's the one thing I'll say before you start. He's 25 years old. I can't see Poles taking a 25-year-old in the first round, and he's also got real short arms. And between Poles and Dennis Allen, they crave length.
Yes.
So it's like 2 strikes against him. So even if he was there, it just, my thinking is, no, we're not doing that. We're getting out of the pick. And if he's there in the second round, then it's a different story. Then the value is different.
Yeah, I've struggled with how to value a guy like him because, again, his tape's so good. But 25 years old, you just think about it, if you draft him in the first round, his second contract is starting in his 30s. But his second contract, that's it. Like his rookie contract is it, really. There is no second contract, or could be no second contract. He also has an injury history. He also had a weird sort of path to getting here. I mean, he was an interior player. He was a nose tackle at West Virginia. He really has only been an edge the past few years. So I do think he's probably the most technically sound of these guys in terms of his hand usage. You see him. He knows how to set up offensive linemen. He's pretty flexible. He's pretty agile. I see a way where he's going to win consistently at the NFL, but I just think he's probably capped out. This is probably going to be who he is. He, like I said, he doesn't have great length. And so I don't know if he's going to be much of a real edge setter at the next level. He's already kind of, he wins with strength around blocks, but never really through blocks. He's not overpowering guys. And again, you have to couch his tape with the fact that he's 4 years older, 5 years older than the guys he's going against. He is an adult against, some kids at times. So I'm a fan, but the valuation's weird. I probably wouldn't take him, in an ideal world, I wouldn't call him a first rounder. He'd be, a team specific early second rounder. It's like, do I need a guy right now? Am I in a Super Bowl window? Can I just waste a pick on a guy who's going to really only be a 4 to 5 year sort of pick? I think at that point, yes. And that's why the Bears do fit, I think, that at least, right? They are in a window where you could use the guy right now as opposed to drafting some of these guys.
With that said, I'd rather have him in the second round than the first round.
Exactly. But do you want to use pick 25 on that? So if you trade back and he's still there, by all means, or if you pick him at 25, I wouldn't hate the pick, but it is just a unique sort of prospect in that regard.
No, I agree with you. Move to safety. Now, one thing I learned about what they're looking at safeties, like both their safeties from last year, in fact, all their safeties except one of the backups are gone. Lost them in free agency. They didn't try to re-sign them. What they're looking for is speed and cover ability. And where Jaquan Brisker had speed, he was more straight line speed, and you couldn't ask him to cover man-to-man. That was the weakest point of his game. He was a more in-the-box type guy, and they want what they signed in Kobe Bryant is what they're looking for. They want 2 of those guys back there. So no, and doing that, I'm going through this list. That's one of the reasons I didn't give you McNeil Warren, because to me, McNeil Warren is Jaquan Brisker.
He is. I think he's going to be a great box,
right,
post, slot,
but not a guy that you can play deep, put a man-to-man with some people, because I just don't think he has the quickness and the suddenness to do that.
Of these guys, I think two jump out to me as like, I think they can cover, or at least they're the kind of athletes that I would trust to consistently cover as being the best two. And then there's a couple others where I'm like, I think they could do it too. But Bud Clark and Genesis Smith, to me, look like the best pure cover athletes of the bunch in terms of speed. I mean, Bud Clark had 15 career interceptions. So that's obviously like, he's done it a bunch.
He's played over the slot.
Yes. Too. And 4.4 speed, good length. He just is really probably only a deep safety, is I think just the biggest knock on him. He's 188 pounds, and he's not a guy who can come in and really be a presence in the box. He is a deep / post sort of safety where he's not going to be coming downhill a ton, but he can really come. I mean, he showed that at the Senior Bowl as well. And then Genesis Smith is younger. So Bud Clark's a 6-year guy coming out. Genesis Smith only a 3rd-year guy coming out. But watching him, what really got me excited about him first watch is just the ease of movement. I mean, the fluidity, coming downhill, changing directions. He just makes that look easy. He's a bad tackler right now. I thought he probably should have come back to school in terms of his eval. If he would have fixed that, I thought he could have been like a top 50 guy, but I assume he's still going to be a day 2 guy because he is such a gifted all-around athlete, and he does have already good tape in terms of his ability to match and mirror, or his ability to range from depth.
About Kilgore, I didn't do Kilgore until yesterday. I just thought he was pretty interesting because he does have some coverability and he does run really well.
Yeah, so he was a little different because I saw, so he's a slot, and the other guys were like actual, traditional safeties, whereas Kilgore's only been a slot, I think, his entire career. And I don't know if I loved him as just a slot. I think around the line of scrimmage, he gets a little, I just thought it's instinctually, he was a little timid, a little passive, not as active as I would like my slot cornerback to be in terms of adding on versus the run, in terms of being aggressive versus screens. I think he's just kind of okay at those things. But I thought in terms of his pure ability to match one-on-one, that's where he was impressive. And I think it shows in his numbers, right? He had 8 picks in 3 years as a slot cornerback. He had 9 pass breakups this past year. He could actually one-on-one press coverage from the slot. He can do that. So he was kind of a different, I would almost evaluate him differently because I don't know what it's going to look like when he has to play deep safety. It's a harder projection, but I think in terms of man coverage over the slot, he would probably be the one I trust the most.
Okay, next would be the LSU kid, Halsey.
He's much more of a, he's much more of your cover one robber type that's in the box, and he can go break on a slant and light up the slot receiver, right? Like that's where he's at his best, is just being the enforcer over the middle of the football field. I think he's a solid tackler. He can stick running backs in their tracks, but I mean, the guy's 220, right? He's bigger than a lot of starting NFL linebackers nowadays. So he's not a pure cover guy. He's more of a whole player in zone, things like that, where I think he excels and coming downhill and playing the run as well, but not going to be the natural go cover a tight end, go cover the slot. I just don't think that's his game.
And that's why I added him, and for just what you said, I was kind of cautious knowing what they're supposedly looking for, because that's another guy is like, they could have got Brisker back for $5 million and they passed on it. So when you see a guy like this, Emmanuel McNeil, you say, well, they could have had the guy they've had the last 4 years. They said no, because they're looking for something different and they're looking for speed. 4.52, you can run good, but it's not like some of these other guys.
Yeah, there's some athletes in the safety class. There really are.
Wheatley.
I like Zakee Wheatley a lot. I think he's a top 100 sort of safety. in my opinion, but much more of I'm drafting him top 100 because he's a great tackler and a physical presence against the run. I don't think he's anything special in coverage. I think he's more than adequate, and he's got a great frame. He's 6'3", long arms, very nimble coming downhill. I think he mirrors and finishes as a tackler really well, like out in space. I think he was great at doing just that. I just don't see a difference maker in coverage. I think he's just kind of, you can get by with him, and ideally he's more of a box safety at the next level. So I think as a box safety, he can be great. But again, for if the Bears are looking for speed and back end ability, that's just not what I saw on Wheatley's tape.
Okay, Spears Jennings.
Spears Jennings. I remember talking about him in a Shrine Bowl call. I don't remember if you were on it. And I was like, I think this guy's an NFL athlete. I think he's a draftable guy. I just think he is not a deep safety, despite, you see 4.3 and you're like, okay, what's that? I thought he was terrible in coverage. I thought his hips are not good. I was just like, get him away from the back end, keep him around the line of scrimmage. His best plays are truthfully just like going and finding someone in the flats. And that's where you see 4.34, right? He can close really fast from, like a 10-yard-ish alignment down to the flat. He's in there in the blink of an eye. Those were his best reps. I just don't see a cover safety. So I think he's a mid to late day 3 sort of special teamer first.
Okay, and then the last guy is Payne.
VJ Payne was so interesting because I think the frame, the athlete, and even like the fluidity is all impressive. I mean, he's an all-around great athlete with ideal frame, and he's played a ton of football. I think almost 4 years as a starter, started midway through his freshman year, then the last 3 years. I just saw a guy who was lost in space too much, too often for my liking, who could be not only just, he could be a liability. He could turn a 10-yard gain into a 50-yard gain because his angles to ball carriers were a problem. But I think, as a one-on-one cover guy, I thought he was really good. I think he can cover tight ends. And with that frame, I think his, athletically, there's nothing limiting him. It's more just the way he plays was worrisome to me at times on tape. But if you can get that guy in the room, there's a lot to work with in terms of developmental traits. So I think he's more of a day 3 guy, but I'd be much more intrigued by him on day 3 than like Robert Spears Jennings. I just think I could see a starting safety there in time with VJ Payne. It's just, I don't see it quite yet.
Okay. No, I think every one of those is fair. Here's the thing. They got one starting safety right now. They got to get a starting safety, which means theoretically, if say the Oregon kid is there at 25, you might have to take him.
He's the best in this class at what you're describing. I mean, he has range. I love him in coverage, even dating back to his time at Purdue. Had 6 picks as a freshman. Like he's the guy who can do that at a really high level in this draft class.
No question. You got some stuff, Aldo?
Yes, I do. Mike, in your mock draft, I think it was the last one you did for CBS Sports, you only had Caleb Downs as a first-round safety. Since you did that mock, do you see another safety potentially getting into the first round?
So I have a mock that just came out today, and I updated it. I do see Thieneman, and I actually have McNeil Warren sneaking into the back end of the first round too. I had him going to the Seahawks specifically because I think in that role, again, we talked about he's more of a box, much more of a guy who would be like a quarters to in the box sort of safety. In that, I think he's awesome. I mean, I think his ability to come downhill, make plays as on ball carriers, force fumbles. I think he is, especially in a class where, as Greg said earlier, once you get to 25, it's at the premium positions, you're going to be tapped out. There's not going to be talent there really for you. Why not take a guy who's, lesser paid position, but has really, really good tape that you feel really strongly about? So it wouldn't surprise me if we get those 3 in the first.
Cool. Let me ask you this though about him. What you see is, except for 1 or 2 games, it's all against MAC competition.
That's
That bother you?
It does. And I actually, in the mock I just talked about today, I was like, I love now that we get to see all these guys transfer up and play the best competition, but I don't know what to do with this tape because he seems like he can, he reads stuff he jumps a lot of routes and he reads stuff at a really high level, but it's like, but these are MAC offenses. So we're not talking about the complexity he's going to see at the NFL level. It might be easier to do there than, or it will be easier to do there than it will be at the NFL level. So is he taking too many chances? Is he a guy that's going to get out of position at the NFL level? Because it gets a lot harder to do just that. So that definitely does worry me. I think if he had his same tape, just like play for play in the SEC, we'd be talking about him for sure as like a top 20 pick. But that's why these guys do transfer.
There's some MAC players that, like when Khalil Mack came out, like he played his opening game at Ohio State against Taylor Decker, had 2.5 sacks. So you saw him against, a first round tackle right away, and he did it, where you didn't see that with this guy, and he wasn't playing against a first round or even second round receiver.
Yeah. Sauce Gardner, his last year, you saw him against Notre Dame. You saw him in the playoff, and it was like, okay, no one even came close to beating him. So what are we even doing here? Take him wherever you want to take him.
Right. No, I agree.
Mike, when you were doing your work for the Shrine Bowl, was there a particular player that really stood out that you didn't have high expectations for, but after watching him in practice and watching the game, you said, wow, this guy really, really is an NFL player?
I think the one guy who, over the course of that week of practices, who I felt the best about from start to finish was Caleb Proctor, the Southeast Louisiana defensive tackle. And then after the combine, like even more so, where I'm like, as I said off the top, there's not a lot of 3 techs. There's not a lot of explosive defensive tackles in this draft. Well, he's one of them. And I think he's one of the most intriguing because you see exactly what he tested like, 4.9 40, great explosive numbers. You see that on tape. It's just he's playing Southeast Louisiana competition. Can ding him for that, and you will. But like, if that guy develops with his tools, we've seen guys in that mold like Javon Hargrave before who just, what it looks like. If you can get that guy in your building and sort of get him stronger and get him more technically sound, that's what a pass rushing 3 technique can look like at the next level. So he's the guy who, over the course of the week at Shrine Bowl, is like, okay, he did it against actual competition that week.
Have you done any work on TJ Parker? Somebody in the chat brought him up, J2K brought him up, and wanted to get your thoughts.
I have, and he goes back to what we said about Clemson guys just not really improving, and that was kind of all the Clemson guys this year. But he was a guy who almost indistinguishable from freshman year to junior year. And what worries me about him is he's just not that great an athlete. I mean, he was intriguing early on because he was so productive for a freshman, so productive for a sophomore. But then by the time he was a junior, he was less productive and still kind of an average athlete by NFL standards. So I think he has a high floor. I do think he can be just a kind of early down defensive end, but I don't see this ceiling to draft him in the first round. I think he's going to be a day 2 guy.
Great.
I agree with that.
My last question, Mike, is during your talk with Greg, you brought up the topic of potentially trading down for a player. Given what you know about the Chicago Bears, given what you know about the strength of this draft, would you be an advocate of Poles aggressively looking for a way to trade down and acquire more day 2 and an early day 3 pick? Or do you think they should stay at 25 and get the best player available?
It obviously depends on how the draft shakes out. You can always say trade down, but then someone you might not have been expecting falls to you there. Stuff happens every year. But given if just it kind of plays out chalky, you don't get a slide from a guy you weren't, Jamad McCoy doesn't fall into your lap somehow because of other people not checking in with medicals. I think, trade down. This just feels like a year where, as we were talking about, pick 25 versus pick 65 may not be that much of a grade difference on a lot of boards. And so because of that, I would want the draft capital on day 2 more so than that first round pick.
Yeah, I agree. And then it's just, to me, it just makes so much sense, especially looking at it because just seems like you get around 21, 22, 23, there's kind of a drop off, and they're more vanilla type players than anybody that really jumps out at you. You know, unless there's a specific position, and we all know teams say they take the best athlete, but the best athlete always turns out to be the highest guy out of their, or not the best athlete, is the highest position graded player on their board. They just set up their board that way. I mean, that's how we set up our boards. So I know how it works.
I got one more, Mike. Go ahead.
I was going to say the one position that was deep that they could theoretically, or not, the positions that are deep, wide receiver being one of them. I don't think they draft a wide receiver in the first round again. You know, like there might be value at wide receiver there at pick 25, but are you going to add another one after top of the second last year, tight end in the first last year, wide receiver in the first year before that? It's just a lot of draft capital. So I don't see that necessarily happening.
Mm-hmm. What about the offensive line? Greg is of the opinion, and I agree with him, that the left tackle position is going to be someone who is already in the building. Braxton Jones, Theo Benedict, et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts about the left tackle position? Is there a left tackle that maybe you would even consider at 25, like Monroe Freely, or the second round with one of their 2 second rounders?
See, I don't think Monroe Freeling's going to be there. I don't think Lomu's going to be there. I think the left tackles in this class, I think, will be gone, unfortunately. Now, I would draft, I think, any of those guys. Yeah, I think Caden Proctor actually might even be like the dream scenario, given that offense and how they set it up for your left tackle position, because he is such a physically dominant specimen. It could be like, your Penei Sewell, even though you kind of got that array on the right side, but like 2 of them wouldn't be bad either, right? So such a dominant run blocker, I think that would be a great scenario for them. But I think he's gone. I think in my latest mock draft, I had 7 offensive linemen already off the board by the time they pick. And the ones that will be there, in my opinion, by them, like Blake Miller could be there, Maxie Honachor from Arizona State, are kind of the tackles that are in that range. Well, they're right tackles and they're projects. So like they ain't starting at left tackle year 1. That would be worrisome in its own right. So I tend to agree that their left tackle is either on the roster right now or they're trading up to go get him.
Great stuff.
I think they, Ozzy's not out for the year, at least what the doctors say. Mm-hmm. So I think he's a PUP guy. Then he's back at worst case, the second half of the season. They re-signed. He's healthy now. Braxton Jones. He started a lot of games, and they brought in the kid. They got him on a 1-year deal, former Cleveland first-round pick. They signed him the other day. He's going to be, he's been rehabbing a year. They still want to get some weight off him. I think, between those 2 and Benedict, they're going to say, this is what we're doing until Ozzy's back. And they're not going to go out. To me, going out and spending a high pick when you just spent a second-round pick on a guy who played well doesn't make any sense, because then what do you do when he comes back? You've got a wasted draft pick somewhere, and that just doesn't make sense for the philosophy of drafting football players.
Let me squeeze one more in here. I told you, Mike Renner, when you said I'll give you a half hour, but if you need more, well, we need more. Barrelissimo just asked about Isaiah World. Is he worth a third rounder? Barrelissimo does a lot of tape study, as most of our followers do here. Barrelissimo thinks he's one of the better left tackles, definitely worth the round 3 pick.
I don't think he's worth the round 3 because of the torn ACL. I believe it was an ACL that he had in his training. So I thought he was borderline even day 2 before that. To me, on tape, he was closer to like a 4th, 5th. Just too inconsistent. And good athlete, worth the chance at that point in time. But post ACL, I mean, he'll be probably mid to late day 3 at this point.
Gotcha. All right. I think we can let Mike go now. What do you think?
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Great job, Mike. We'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks a lot, Michael.
Mike Renner, CBS Sports. Hey, Mike, anything you want to plug before?
Well, too late now. I gotta check out his mock.
Yeah, released today on CBS Sports or Mike Renner. And of course, you can follow him on X. And we'll keep you posted on anything else that he shares, especially if it's Bears related. We owe him that and more. Greg, you ready for some questions?
Sure. Well, you know what? We ought to talk about, we did this last Monday afternoon, and there's been a lot of free agents signed since then.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, and then also some veterans they brought back, including Braxton Jones. But what was funny is that we were talking about Braxton Jones. We said last week, wouldn't surprise us if they brought back Braxton Jones on a one-year deal. About 2 hours later, they signed him to a one-year deal. So, which meant the deal was already done. They just hadn't really announced it yet. Personally, I think that was a good idea, and it goes back to Dan Rochar saying the fix is in the building.
Yeah, so, that's right. That is what he said. Somebody in the chat said, didn't Rochar said that he doesn't want to work on projects, and I didn't hear that in that interview. What I heard is we have our left tackle in the building based on what I know, kind of thing, right?
Right. He said these guys aren't where you want them yet, but that's the guy. That's the guy. And you go to Braxton. Braxton, I tweeted it last week or the week before. I said he physically was not ready to play at all last year. Mm-hmm. He played because he had to play. They needed somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed.
And I think because of that, he earned the respect of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
He tried to play through it. And I firmly believe that that's one of the reasons he's back here now. And it's not like it's not like they just gave him a minimum contract.
Right.
It's $5 million. They gave him $5 million and the ability to make $5 million more. So he got a pretty decent deal.
Yeah, it's a decent deal for him, and he'll get a chance to maybe drive up that salary to double that for 2027 season. So we'll see what happens.
What's funny too is that you didn't see the offensive tackles getting a lot of money like last year.
Right.
And one guy, I saw a theory, I don't remember who said it, but that some of these tackles last year that got big money bombed.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because I remember we were talking to this guy from Pittsburgh, like he got like 18 or 20 million a year. And a couple other guys that said these guys were getting huge money. What's Braxton going to get?
Yeah.
And then none of those guys really panned out the way you thought.
Yeah. D. Levine is complaining about Braxton not having the anchor, having problems with the bull rush. Do you think at this point in his career, this is season number 5, that he is at the point where he really needs to prove that he can excel at dealing with bull rushes, because he should be fully recovered from injury?
Here's how I'm going to answer that. He knows that. Last year, coming off the injury he was coming off with, he could not do lower body work to help himself be ready to take on a bull rush.
Mm-hmm.
So it was, I'm not going to say a wasted offseason. You could see his movement in camp. His one leg was literally smaller than the other leg.
Yeah, you and I saw it together, yes.
And so, as far as training and getting ready for the season, it was rehab, getting the range of motion back, getting some strength back in that lower leg, but he couldn't do the squats and the stuff for his ass, those types of things where you get the power. And, Dan Rochar said the same thing. He's got to play with more bend.
Yeah.
Well, you got to be healthy to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And now he's healthy. Yeah. He's been healthy since probably mid-season. He's got this whole off season to take care of it. And they got an insurance policy. It was a first-round pick. We're talking like a top 10 pick or top 15 pick who, because of injuries, just like Braxton had, kind of bombed out, didn't play at all last year.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the other thing. I didn't know this till today. There's like 4 or 5 teams brought him in.
Yeah. Yeah.
To look at, and because he was a street free agent, the Bears brought him in. Free agency started a week ago today. Bears brought him in for a medical the week before.
Mm.
And a bunch of other teams did too. So there was competition. he wasn't going to get any money. It was really pick the team where you think you got the best opportunity.
Yeah, the Bears certainly are going to be a great opportunity for Jedrick Willis is his last name, right? Jedrick Willis. Former first round pick, so he's got pedigree that hopefully
you go back and you look at his first couple years in the league at Cleveland. He's a pretty good player.
Yeah,
and so if he can get anywhere close to that, again, you're not looking at this for a whole season. Maybe worst case scenario, it turns out to be that, but theoretically, that's not supposed to be the case. So, we'll see how it plays out. But then a couple of these other guys they signed, and I can't think of all the names. I don't have all the names in front of me.
They're crawling across the screen. So Kobe Bryant, I think we talked about last week, along with Neville
Gallimore. We talked about.
What do you think about Khalif Raymond?
Love it.
Yeah,
absolutely love it. A dynamic returner. He is. You watch his tape. He is tough as hell. He's a little guy, real tough, and he can run. He ran 4.35 coming out of Holy Cross 10 years ago. And I guarantee you, if you time him right now, he's 4.37. He can flat out fly. When he's on the field, he's always the fastest guy on the field.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be what I think you're going to see is Luther's going out and play DJ spot, going to be the Z receiver. This guy will be your slot unless they draft another one.
Yeah.
And he'll be your returner because you're going to see a lot of 12 personnel with Loveland playing as a move tight end wide receiver type guy.
Now, Cam Lewis from watching a lot of Buffalo Bills game. What's your impression?
He's a football player.
He's small.
Yeah, and he's listed. He played at 194 last year, and he's short. He's shorter than you want. Tough as nails. Real smart. Now, I got a text from a guy. Paul Peck is the play-by-play guy. He went to the University of Buffalo, so his whole career has been in Buffalo. University of Buffalo for 4 years, and then the Bills until right now coming here. He's from Detroit. He was a starter at the University of Buffalo at corner. Lance Leipold, who's the Kansas coach, was the Buffalo head coach. So I get a text right after Buffalo signed him from Paul Peck, who's the play-by-play guy for the University of Buffalo. He said, Lance said that is the toughest football player he's ever coached.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And you see it because for a little guy, he doesn't turn down anything. He's played safety. He started at safety. He started at the nickel. I see him for the Bears as he's the backup nickel.
Yeah.
And if they want to go, and so basically he's taking CJ's place. And oddly enough, CJ goes to Buffalo. So it was a trade.
How about
and
that?
you got a better football player than CJ, smaller, but faster, just as good ball skills, but where CJ suffered, and we saw it in those last few games, is playing man coverage from the slot. And that's, people worried, well, they lost all their secondary. They didn't want them back. They couldn't do the things that DA wanted. He wants man coverage, and those guys can't cover man.
Exactly. Just doesn't have it. Now, let me ask, actually, it was...
one other thing, too, before I forget.
Okay.
Terrell Smith is way ahead of schedule and should be a go for OTAs. It's probably 75-80% that he'll be full go into OTAs.
Yeah, you texted me that, and then I responded by saying, what are your thoughts about him? And you said...
when he's healthy, he's a starter. He's got that kind of talent, but, his agent's, a good friend of ours, and his agent says, we both know he's got to stay healthy this year.
Yep, indeed. Now, we've talked about this before, but given the complexion of the team, what are your thoughts about Kyler Gordon potentially being moved to safety?
I don't see it. I think he's so valuable as the slot. And you got to have a tough guy. And the guy they got from Buffalo, where he's a real good cover guy and he's tough as nails.
Yeah, yeah.
He's still 5'9.5" and 194 pounds. And so, you know, you can't do some of the run stuff. Gordon gets hurt, you put him in, you're fine. Okay. But you don't want him playing. He started like, not this past year, the year before. I think he started 7 or 8 games. Started 4 or 5 this past year. You got a lot of play time.
Do you think Terrell Smith has the speed? Samuel was questioning his speed on defense.
Terrell Smith, he was 4.41 coming out.
Yeah. We'll see if he still has that speed.
Oh, he'll have it. The way, you know, people are talking about that it takes X amount of time on an ACL. They've improved the technique, surgical techniques on Achilles, on ACLs so much over the last 10 years. Guys are coming back faster. Their rehab, I mean, not only as the surgical techniques improve, but the rehab protocols have improved. And don't forget, you know, like you and I get hurt, we go to rehab for an hour a day, 3 times a week, right? Okay. These guys are working 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, every freaking day. They're doing more in a day than we do in a week.
Yeah.
I'll put it this way. They're doing more in a morning than we do in a week on rehab. And so, you know, they come back faster. They're professional athletes. They're skilled. And people think, well, it took so-and-so so long. This is 2026, not 2015, not 2005. And you got advancements and everything. Yeah. You look at the war that's going over in Iran. Look what they can do with some of these bombs because of technology advantage.
Absolutely.
You know, they just about, you know, have a bomb go in the front door if you wanted to.
There's one now.
You know, and that it's the same thing when it comes to medical advancements. They're a lot better.
Yeah. AKW saying you have an excellent memory. Terrell Smith did run a 4.41 at the combine. Way to go, Greg. Those memory cells are still working. You still got enough of them up there. All right.
My sister's got dementia. God, knock on wood that I don't get it.
Want to get your thoughts on Contavious Street. I saw that he was a 4th-round draft pick, had some injuries early on in his season, but he had a couple of seasons after he was healed from that injury where he had 3.5 sacks, followed by 3 sacks the following season, and then play dropped off a little bit, but this past season with the Falcons, he got 2 sacks in just 7 games. He started as on the practice squad, but when they activated him in November, he was on fire. And Ben Johnson told Street, that was your best tape that I've seen of your entire career. And Street is coming into this team fired up because he loves the system Dennis Allen runs.
Well, you know who he played for in his best year when he had 3 sacks? Dennis Allen.
That's right. Okay.
Okay, so there's already a comfort level there. He had his highest percentage of plays, like 58% of the plays. His highest number of tackles and 3.5 sacks in the season, all with DA.
Wow.
So he knows the system, and he is, you know, similar to Gallimore. He's a big guy. I mean, I think he was only like 285 coming out, but now he is in that 310 to 315 range. He was a 4.8 guy coming out. He can still, you watch the tape, he can run. That's what and that, to me, that's what stood out. You know, when I was told by the scout, I said, we want speed in the middle. We want speed everywhere, but we got to get speed in the middle. And then you watch these 2 guys that they signed. That's what they can do. They can run.
Yeah.
And they're strong. They're both really strong.
Yeah. Anybody else that was a free agent pickup that, you know, they did the re-signings? We talked about Braxton Jones. Kate Keenum is coming back, of course. But I can't think of anyone else that I'd love to get.
We talked about Jedrick Wills, Contavious Street. I like the Contavious Street signing.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant, I saw a thing this morning. He was mic'd up for a game, and it's on YouTube. And he's a wild man. I mean, he jacks up everybody as far as getting people ready to play, and he talks on the field, and he'll talk a little shit on the guys from the other team. I like everything about him, but this is the key thing to remember, that they're going to take a safety at some point, and it's going to be the same kind of player.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point that you made when we had Mike Renner on earlier, is they want interchangeable safeties. They don't want the offense to know that this guy's going to be in the box because that's where he plays 80% of the time. They're going to disguise. They're going to trick you. It's great. And then the point that you make, Greg, about he's a talker, the complexion of this team has changed dramatically since the Eberflus teams, where it seemed like those teams were polite. These Bears, I don't think there's going to be a polite person on that field. They're going to say F the Packers. They're going to hit people across the mouth. This is going to be old-time Bears football. Awesome to see.
I hope so. I've seen so many tweets and stuff. Oh, the team's not as good as it was a year ago. And know what it is, and I'm not trying to be critical of the fans. They don't know the players.
Yeah.
Okay, so they know the big name. So, Crosby. We didn't get Max Crosby. He doesn't want to spend any money because that's the only name they know.
Yep.
And they don't know the other guys' names. And speaking of that,
and then they don't know what something that you posted on X. They don't know that Poles has to manage the cap. He's got to anticipate the signings that are coming down the road with their own players.
Right. And you can't do that. I've said all along here, going back a month, I cannot see them going after Hendrickson. I cannot see them going after Crosby because of the money. Not that they don't have the money, but
talk to me about that, because there's, the Schefter thing, the Bears are broke.
Well, I'm glad to, because Cap shot it down too.
Yes.
That was one of what Schefter was looking at. See, too many people said they don't got any cash.
Right, cash flow.
Totally bullshit. What Schefter was talking about was cap dollars. Right now, go to OTC and they got 1.6 million in cap dollars, which isn't enough. They're out of money. They're broke, theoretically. Okay, you can turn around and redo a bunch of contracts and create 40 or 50 million in a matter of seconds.
Right.
Okay. He's been reluctant to do it until he has to do it. No, he's going to have to do it just to draft.
Yes, because you need about almost $10 million.
You got to go into the season. You got to have like 7, 8, 9 million in reserve ready to there sitting in the pool to take care of injuries, injury settlements, sign players because of injuries, whatever. So you're sitting with a lot of money. You got to have that, pay your practice squad, those types of things. Then it's when you look at some of these, other things, they just going out and signing that big contract just did not make sense. Caleb, my opinion, the way contracts are going, when you look at what Jones got in Indy last week, $50 million a year. What the hell do you think Caleb's getting?
75, maybe. Oh my God.
But and they can do him as soon as the season ends, this 2026 season. So after the Super Bowl. So starting in the middle of February, a year from now, they can do a new contract with him and extend him. It works out better for them to try to do it then than have him play another year and the price keeps going up. Because the price isn't going down on quarterbacks, it's going up. So you got to pay him. You got to pay right. There's going to be other players next year. So the 2027 year is Jackson's last year
Mm-hmm.
at guard. It's Thuney's last year. Now, Thuney, at that point, you don't know if Thuney's going to come back. So there's a bunch of guys you got to pay, and you can't be giving out $30 million contracts to a 29-year-old who flunked a medical.
Right.
And we probably should touch on that because it was Diana Rossini. I was listening to her. She was on with not Dan Patrick, who's the one of the other guys, and she was talking about it. He goes, Baltimore, and this to me it was the key thing, is she said what I thought was the issue was. She said they weren't worried about this year. They were worried about going forward. And so right away that said, the MRI shows he's got arthritic conditions in his knee.
Max Crosby we're talking about.
Yes. And that's when you say, the key word is we're worried about going forward. Arthritis does not get better. It only gets worse. Look at my finger. So,
Jeepers.
And with these arthritic conditions in the knee, cartilage wears more. The we want to call it little bumps of weather. The space between the two bones in your leg gets closer. You start getting bone on bone rubbing. Okay, can you play through it? Yep. But it starts whittling away at practice time. All of a sudden, like Khalil Mack kept missing practice. He's still missing practice. And so, yeah, he can play in games, but do you want to lock up $30 million a year, and it's really going to be a little bit more than that, and say, but I don't know if he's going to practice after year one, and he might miss 2 or 3 games because of these, it's like, it's a big question mark because you don't really have the answer, and every guy is different.
Yep. And when you're trading away 2 first-round draft picks like the Ravens agreed to and then took back, you want a player who's going to last longer than 2 or 3 years. That's going to
play. Yeah, because look at what those 2 first rounds are going to do. Exactly.
So, do you fault the Ravens general manager for not having that forethought before the trade was completed?
He said he called to renegotiate the trade. If you listen to his press conference.
Mm-hmm.
And then the doctors came back in with a final opinion in the midst of all that. And they said no.
Wow. That's bad news. and do you think it was unfair to other teams who may have been interested in making a trade, what have you, and everything was changed because they reneged on the deal?
But who's to say that if he got traded here, if he got traded to Dallas, if he got traded, the same thing wasn't going to happen?
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
and so. And now here's the thing with medical, and I've said this a lot, but it's got to be repeated. Medical reports, medical opinions are like scouting reports.
Mm-hmm.
They change from doctor to doctor, and the doctor makes his opinion based on his experience with that particular type of injury and what can cause. I've sat in so many medical meetings where I give you some examples. I don't want to mention players' names, where we'd be talking about a player. One was a safety we were talking about that was a 2nd round grade. And so we get to him and said, no. Doc said, no. Why? Well, where's he going to go? This is exactly how the conversation goes. Where's he going to go? Jerry goes, probably 2nd round. What kind of contracts you get? Well, he gets a 4-year contract, X amount of dollars. Doctor goes, he won't make it through the contract.
Oh my goodness, that's something.
So he goes, or if he makes it through the contract, he's not going to be anywhere as good as he is year one.
Yeah,
it's going to go downhill from there. You know what? Follow the player. He was 100% right.
Yeah.
And so you got to listen to that. And I've sat in these things here for 10 years, and what they say, you got to believe. Are they going to be right 100% of the time? Nope.
No.
And am I right 100%? No. I mean, you're not.
No one is.
There's going to be situations, and they could pass a guy that another team could fail.
Mm-hmm.
Same doctors will say, if you got a shoulder problem, it's all right. We can take him. Why? Well, because he can get through the season, and then I'll fix it after the season. You'll be fine. And so, but another team who's not a shoulder specialist, he'll say, no, we don't want to deal with it.
And Greg, NFL teams have learned that Caleb Banks actually had a broken bone in his foot, and Ipsen Law is asking, would you take him off the board?
Yeah, he's broke the foot twice in a year.
Wow. So even if he fell to one of the 2 second-round picks, pick number 60, you wouldn't touch him?
I mean, I'm not the doctor, and I'm not seeing the report. I know he broke his foot twice in a year, less than a year. So he broke his foot doing a combine workout.
Yeah.
Okay, so remember he said that he stopped his workout. He said his shoes were uncomfortable. Yeah. He broke a bone in his foot. Okay, so doing just strictly a combine workout, which isn't that strenuous,
right?
So to me, I don't touch him.
Yeah, I'm with you. As promising as his upside could be, because he's a boomer bust.
He's got great upside, but his floor is below the basement.
Yeah, it's he could really break a lot.
He's like in the sub basement with the floor.
Yeah, and this team is at a point now where they just can't miss on a second-round pick. They got to hit with those first 4 picks that they have. Okay, we got tons of questions.
The other thing with him too, Aldo, is he's probably got to have another surgery. When's he going to be ready?
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of you look at the foot, the anatomy of the foot. There's a lot of bones there. Was it the same bone or a different bone? And what have they got to do to fix it? And how long is he going to be out? Does that mean he's going to miss the off-season program, but he'll be ready for camp? But then you got to say, yeah, but he just broke a foot going through a combine workout after he already had a repair. So there's all these situations like that. So to me, it's stay away.
Super concerning indeed. Okay, let's talk about Samo had this question. He says, I don't understand why age would matter, given the fact that there are so many first-round busts anyway. Why not draft a guy that can play for the next 5 seasons, and then after that, reevaluate him? He posted that question when you guys were talking about the 25-year-old lineman.
Okay, now, if it's the 3rd round, the 4th round, the way the game is now, I don't care, because at the end of forget the 5th round option on a 1st round. Before you pick up the 5th round option if the guy's a player or not. Yeah. Okay, and there, you look through the drafts recently, almost half of the first rounders don't get the 5th round option picked up. So, or if he's good enough, you're renegotiating. Like Caleb will probably get an extension before they even have to pick up the 5th round option.
Right.
So, and the 5th round option too. One of the reasons you want to do that with those first round picks is because that 5th year the money jumps way up. It's almost it's not franchise tag money, but it's real high. So it's like, no, I want to get a contract so I can keep the cap number down lower.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
But anyway, to go back to the question is, you take a guy in the 1st round, you're anticipating that you're going to have him 8-9 years. So if he's 25, and in the case of Messidor, he turns 25, I think it's like April 5th.
Yeah.
So he's 25, 26, 27, 28.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then if you had the fifth year option, which you wouldn't want to do, you'd want to try to extend him. He's still 29 years old. That's as old as Kentavious Street. That's as old,
And he's got 8 years of experience. Yeah, I hear you.
And okay, now you look at Gervon Dexter. He's 24 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, this guy's older than Gervon Dexter, and Gervon's got 3 years in the league.
Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. I will say this. It's possible that some of these 24, 25-year-olds that are coming out, and we're going to see a lot more of that they're more NFL ready than a Gervon Dexter who came out when he was 20, 21 years old.
I'll give you that, because and NIL money is keeping these kids in school longer. But again, do I want to take one? I don't mind taking one. I'm not using a first rounder on him.
I'm with you.
Okay, then with him, not only does he have, an age problem at 25 years old, he's got short arms, and you got a GM and a DC that are in love with length.
Length, yeah. Good point. Good point. Okay, V-Dogs asks, hey, Greg, from your experience scouting players and being around different organizations, how important is bringing in a center back into a division that he's familiar with? So Bradbury has played against the Lions. He's played against the Packers when he was with the Vikings. He played there for, 6, 7 seasons. Is that important?
I don't think it matters. Because you've got a 25% turnover in teams every year. So he was here in 24, 25, he's with New England. So now he's back here for 26. A lot of those teams between 24 and 26 might have a 40% turnover in personnel. Okay, now, if you got the same coaching staff, he was with the Vikings. He knows the Vikings defense. So, yes, that part helps him, especially with making line calls and stuff.
Yep.
The main reason he was signed was because of the athletic fit. He's already played in an outside zone scheme. He can get out in space. He can adjust on the move. He can make a productive block in space versus a guy who is a tank that can't play in space. He might help your inside run game, but he can't do anything with what the Bears want to do. So you got to find guys. They worked out 2 centers this week. One was the Kansas State kid, who is very athletic. The next day, there's a kid who played guard and center for Oklahoma, not as athletic, but when you watch the tape, and I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but when you watch the tape, he is pretty good in space. He's just not as fast. Yeah. So, the guys they're interested in are guys that can play in space. And on top of that, Bradbury's contract's done at the end of this year. So they're going to have to make a decision. Taking a guy doesn't mean that he'll be the starter next year, but if they don't like what Bradbury does, and they got him at really, I think his cap number is less than $5 million this year. They got a guy, hopefully, right, either him or the draft choice, Luke Newman last year, to step in a year from now.
Yeah, and Doug had a follow-up question. Realistic center options that the Bears could probably target in this draft. We don't need to get into names, but it does appear, at least according to Daniel Jeremiah, he said this is not a great center class, but it's a good center class for early day 3 or late day 2, early day 3. He sees
the earliest you want to take a guy is late in the 3rd.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's the best way I would explain it. Okay. The way it sits right now, barring any kind of trade or whatever, Bears are sitting with a late 3. Their next pick's not till a late 4. So let's say, okay, this guy from Kansas State, let's just say that's the guy.
Sam Hecht.
Yeah. Say he's there. Now you could say, okay, I could wait, but I want him. So now okay, I want him. I'm taking him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to wait and take the chance of losing him because that is the guy I want.
Mm-hmm. And I believe, if I remember correctly, one of the cool things about Hecht is that he can play guard. So if he's the second string center, he can also be the second string guard in case Tooney or Jackson gets nicked up. You basically
the more versatility you have, theoretically, you want to dress 7 offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've got a guy who can swing tackle, play both tackles, and theoretically play inside if he has to. And then you got a guy who can play guard and center if he has to. Then you can get away. See, in recent years, if you don't have that versatility, then you got to dress 8. And that means you're taken away from another position.
Right. Well, there's possibilities in this draft. I'd love to see them, again, I'm going to say for the 50th time, I'd love to see them trade out of number 25.
That's another reason why I think they trade out. Everything to me points trading out. From where, if they're picking at 20, 18, okay, no, you're probably staying. But you're picking at 25. And for the people listening, just looking at the projections that guys like Dane Brugler, who we will have on after the Beast comes out. He's already made a commitment. Daniel Jeremiah. I don't know if we're going to get to Lance this year because Eric Edholm I want to bring in, and we're going to have Eric, and we're going to have Eric Galko. Mm-hmm. And we're running out of time. We got what, 5 weeks?
Yeah, 4 more shows, right? Yeah, 5 more shows. Excuse me. Okay, let's get to some more questions. See if we can get as many as possible in the next 10, 15 minutes. J2K was wondering about Caden McDonald, the Ohio State nose tackle. And some boards, he's actually been slipping a little bit, only because other players have been moving up. And it's not any knock against McDonald, but do you still see him, based on what the Bears have done at the defensive tackle position, do you still see him as a fit?
I don't see him as a fit.
Oh, wow. Because
there's very few that are fits. Now, in fairness, he hasn't worked out yet.
Yeah.
Okay. And Ohio State's might be this week. If it's not this week, it's next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Zion Young from Missouri's workout is Friday. And I get all that stuff, but I won't. Like for Zion Young's workout Friday, I probably won't see that for 2 weeks because I get them a lot of times Saturday. The guy sends them to me.
Yeah.
And he might not get it until Monday. So, it'll be in the next batch, but I'll have it. We'd have to look up and see whatever day Ohio State's pro day is. But it used to always be the Friday before they went on spring break. This is going back years ago. So they have it that Friday. And then, because I remember, I'm a Catholic. And so I wouldn't eat meat on Friday during Lent. And I'd be going home from Columbus, Ohio, which is about a 5-hour drive to Buffalo. I was working for the Giants. And I had to find like a McDonald's fish sandwich to eat because I wouldn't eat meat. And it was always coming back from Ohio State.
I know the feeling. Absolutely. All right. We got another one from J2K. He's wondering about TJ Edwards. Is he a fit now, given that this defense wants to be fast?
I think they made a mistake myself, and that they wouldn't have re-signed him unless the coaching staff wanted him, and the coaching staff wanted him based on his tape.
Yeah.
But then when they had him, they found out, because you look at what they signed more speed, and we saw TJ cannot cover. TJ's great. He's good in zone. Put him in the short zones, he's good. He's got ball skills. He's got receiver awareness. But DA wants a lot of man coverage. And he can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, he's going to be an expensive backup this year, and you can't get out of the contract.
Yeah.
So, well, you can, but you're going to take a big hit. So he's going to be an expensive backup this year. And then next year, I doubt he'll be here.
V-Dog is saying that in his perception, he doesn't think that Dennis Allen sees Austin Booker as a scheme fit because he's undersized and a bit one-dimensional. What are your thoughts? Does Booker?
He said that. Dennis has said that.
Yeah, and that's what V-Dog said too. Yeah.
I wish he was bigger. He doesn't say he's not a fit. He just says, "I wish he was bigger." Same time, we watch him, his improvement from 24 to 25.
Mm-hmm,
He's got that real lean, lanky build, but he's pretty damn strong.
Mm-hmm.
So, is he a perfect fit? No. What they wanted to do with him going into the season, the plan was Dale plays end on base downs. On passing downs, Dale moves inside, Booker goes outside. Okay, so what happens? Booker gets hurt in camp, goes on IR, and he was really on IR for like 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks. And they played one game together, and then Dale gets hurt. So they never were able to implement the plan the way they wanted to do it.
Right.
And Dale's most productive pass rushing in his career with the Colts, because the Colts was the same way. He was outside, inside. Was as an inside interior pass rusher.
Okay, I got a few good ones here. They're all good, but we only have time for 3 or 4 more. Ant has an interesting question here. So he posted this when you were talking with Mike Renner. He says, so we're looking at either safety or edge with the first pick because defensive tackle is deeper and we can scoop one up later. He was asking. I read it wrong. He was asking.
DT is actually kind of lean, and for the players they are looking for, look at the 2 players they signed. That's what they're looking for.
Yep.
There's only a few of those guys in this draft.
That's right. Now, would linebacker be on that list if they, the linebacker is the best player available? So, in the high end,
they signed 2 guys to be your starters. Okay, now you're not going to give up on your 4th round pick last year who can run a 4.3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And and Sewell was playing pretty good football until he got hurt. You're only keeping 5 linebackers. They already re-signed the one guy, defensive end / linebacker and special team player. I don't see it as way up here on the list. And you got TJ. And you can't get rid of TJ. You're stuck with TJ.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's they would have to bite. What are we talking about? $12 million cap hit if they were to release?
Something like that, yeah, because they save a little if it's a post June 1st, but it's still not enough. I mean, they don't have enough. They'd have to. You're wasting money. That's the best way of putting it. And the guy, and if there's an injury, the guy is a value.
Yeah. Now, I forgot what I was going to ask, but I got a great question here. This is from Arnie Lindbergh. He says the 49ers received over $20 million in cap adjusted largely to insurance payout for hurt players. The Bears had key players hurt. Why are the Bears not in if the NFL promotes this scam of getting insurance?
The Bears got an adjustment last week and it was $4.8 million or something. Some teams got more. I don't know that much about that to say.
Yeah.
It's
there is kind of a new thing.
Some of it's carryover too. You got to look at what the carryover is.
Right.
From the previous year. I know enough about the cap to be dangerous, but exactly how that works, I don't know. It's not something that one team is doing and another team's not doing, because if one team's doing it, they're all doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, there was an article, I think it was, I won't remember correctly who wrote it, but that more and more teams are taking insurance out on players in their contracts in the event that they lose money. And it can be, pretty expensive.
But it's got to be an insurance on a player's got to be like a career ender. The insurance isn't paying unless the player cannot play anymore.
Right. So if you had insurance on TJ Edwards, it's not going to pay out because he is going to be cleared to play.
He's capable of playing.
Yeah. Okay. Somebody asked me, and I see this.
A perfect example too was like, somebody was asking a couple of weeks ago, well, can't they do an injury settlement with Dale?
Mm-hmm.
No. You do an injury settlement. Most of the time, injury settlements are done with undrafted free agents, players in the last year of their contract that get hurt in training camp. Okay, and what an injury settlement, let's see, you want them off the roster.
Yeah.
And because you can go out and sign somebody else, you got the 90-man limit. So let's say the doctors say it's a 5-week injury.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than put him on IR and have to pay him, his contract or whatever, you negotiate with the agent. The doctor says it's 5 weeks. Maybe the agent say, well, it's 7. Okay, we'll give you 6. And you give him 6 weeks pay, and that's your injury settlement. Gotcha. That's trying to put it in very simplistic.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
But you can't do it with a guy that's under contract for, 3 more years.
Right.
2 more years.
Yeah. Somebody asked me on social media, would you trade out a 25 pick? And I said, yes, unless one of my favorite players in this draft drops to 25. He asked me who they were, and I said, Sonny Styles, Jeremiah Love, and Ruben Bain. I'm assuming that you would agree with that. Would you add anybody to that list?
I wouldn't touch Ruben Bain.
Really? Oh, no, Greg, please don't say that.
Shortest arms for the edge since 1999.
But it doesn't matter. The guy is
does. That's
super
why
lightning quick. He's a 3-tech.
How do you know? 3-tech, he's 270 pounds.
Gang 10. This is Chicago.
How do you know you can do that?
Because look at his body.
Has he worked out yet to give you time? Nope.
No, he hasn't.
Okay, so he's again going back to he's got 30 1/4-inch arms. No edge drafted since 1999. There's a reason why we have these measurables.
Yeah, I get it.
That's 27 years ago.
But some players do transcend those measurables. There are, unicorns out there. Safe to say?
Okay, yeah, there is a unicorn, and his name is Parsons. He was drafted as a linebacker, not as an edge, and he's got 31 3/4.
Yeah.
That's 1.5 inches bigger than or longer than Ruben Bain.
Man, Greg, I am so disappointed. And not that Bain is going to be there at 25, and I wouldn't.
No, he's not going to be. I could just. I'm just saying for me, and you hear DA, you hear polls, they talk about it left and right. That Darius Slade, he announced his retirement. They talk about length left and right. And do you think they're going to remember we had the argument we had the one listener, I can't remember his name, lived out on the West Coast. The little corner.
Jordan Silvera loves
now he's on his 3rd freaking football team.
That's right. Because he still can't open his zipper, his fly, without having to bend down his arm.
Right. His arms are so short he can't even take a pee.
Exactly. There's that joke.
People laugh and say, "Oh, but he's really good." Yeah, he's good against college football players.
Yeah. Okay. I do think, what were Aaron Donald's? What was his arm length? Because they were similar to Bain.
32.5, and he's 6'1" or 6 3/4 of an inch.
Okay.
So now you're looking at 2 things. You're looking at the wingspan and the arm length.
Mhm.
So, and you want the wingspan to be longer than he is tall.
Yeah.
Okay, so now another guy, Cassius Howell. He's got shorter arms than Bain. He's got like 30-inch even.
Mhm.
His wingspan was an inch shorter than he is tall.
That's not normal.
No. So it's like, no, I don't want him. Not in a game where at a position that requires length.
Yeah. I get you. I get you.
Okay, Hendrickson's got shorter arms, like 32 and a half. That's still better than 2 inches longer than Ruben Bain.
Yeah. By the way, I'm glad the Bears didn't even consider signing Trey Hendrickson. That's wasted money in my opinion. Okay, I got a few more good ones here. Let's see. V-Dog was asking about Zay Frazier. You know, I forgot that this guy's super fast, and somebody posted his. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Is this guy? Everything is pointing. He Frazier put out a tweet, an X post saying, "I'm ready to go." If that's the case, what are your expectations based on what you scouted of him going into right after the draft, 2025?
Good man cover guy with good skills, but he was a 25-year-old rookie.
Ooh.
So now he's a 26-year-old. He's no longer a rookie.
Wow.
He's a first-year player. You know what? He never participated in camp. He may be a rookie still, but he's 26 and hasn't played. So he's got to, excuse me, participated in meetings, was at practices, watching. He learned mentally. But he hasn't been able to do the physical part.
Right.
To me, it's a question mark.
Yeah. Well, if they draft a cornerback, I think
I don't. You know, they signed the guy from Buffalo.
Right.
Reports on Terrell Smith are good. They brought back Jalen Jones, re-signed him. We didn't mention that one.
Yeah.
The other day, Jalen Jones, pretty good backup corner.
He is.
To me, corner is not. Especially looking at the picks the way they are now. You don't have a fifth and you don't have a sixth.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. What about, boy, I had a good question here and now I lost it. Let's see. So what about Sonny Styles? What if he drops to 25? It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. I mean, that's the top 10 player.
Yeah, but don't you love him like I love him? I mean, this guy's phenomenal.
But I mean, you got to be, when you go into a draft like this, when you're drafted in the 20s, okay, I'll give you an example because why I wanted to trade down. Perfect example was 2006 draft. We were picking 26. Bears are picking 25. We traded out. That's the year we got Devin Hester.
Yep.
And I made calls. Jerry said, how far do you want to go back? We ended up going back farther than that. But I said, let's call 10 teams. And we'll go from there. So we went back to like 36. All we did was let them know that, hey, I started calling. The draft was, Saturday and Sunday then. So, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever. And when we took him, and I said, there's a guy we like. He might not be there. If he's not going to be there, then we're really seriously thinking about moving out. Just want to let you know. We had 7 teams call. And then it got into a bidding war.
Nice.
And it got between the Colts and Buffalo. And the Colts was a better second round pick, but the other picks weren't as good as the Buffalo picks. And so it turned out that we thought the Buffalo deal was the better deal.
So when you are negotiating like that, Greg, do you mention the player that you're interested in?
Never.
Okay.
You can't do that because they might be interested in the same player.
Yeah. They ask, don't they? Who are you interested
Never.
in?
No.
No, they don't even ask.
They know not to do that.
I see.
You're not gonna tell them. You just say there's a guy we're eyeballing, he may not be there. So you start getting the calls, and we started getting the calls probably around 20. And then but Polian was like, we got so many calls that usually Bobby DePaul is the pro guy. Then he would take all the calls because Jerry and I were in the draft room trying to concentrate about. There were so many calls that all three of us were taking them.
Yeah.
And Polian's like, and he's well, what do I got to do, damn it?
I love it.
And so he ended up, I think 1 or 2 picks later, he moved up to get that. And it was, we got the deal. It was a deal. It actually was my choice. Jerry said, which one do you want? And I said, I think the Buffalo one's the best for what we want to do.
So you only called 10 teams, and that was your call. Let's only work with 10 teams?
Right, but we got calls from more teams beyond that.
Got you. So those 7 calls were from other teams too.
Yeah,
okay.
Some were within that and some were beyond.
Gotcha.
But you let it out that all you got to do is let it out that you might be willing to move.
Gotcha.
And theoretically, there's a lot more trades in the bottom 7 than there are in the top 10.
Yeah. Sure, that makes sense. Okay, 2 more, Greg, and I'll get you out of here. Let us start with V-Dog saying that your girl, Diana Rossini, says that edge player Josh Sweat has been made available for trade. Would you guys pursue that route opposite side of Montez Sweat?
Well, they said no to Trey Hendrickson. They said no to Crosby.
But the money is different here, right?
It's $20 million.
Okay. Well, Trey is what, 30?
It's still $20 million. He had by far his best year sack production, 12 and a half sacks. I don't see them spending, this is my own personal opinion. Could he? Yes. I don't see him doing that. I see him trying to draft and develop.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Under the circumstances of after the investment in Dale, they're not going to go after a big ticket defensive end.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how many years are left on the contract, but I know it's like $19 or $20 million this year, and you go back now. You're stuck with that contract for another 3 years. I mean, we can look it up right now.
While you look it up, I just want to say Tim Richards is in the chat. He's a Lions fan, and so I'll say it because Greg doesn't want to swear anymore. Fuck Detroit. Okay, just kidding, Tim. But I do want to ask you this question that Rick Saviano posed. Let me know when you're ready for the next and last question. Definitely the last.
Well, let me just look up his contract here.
Jim, check that.
He is Kyler Murray was the highest paid. His base salary this year, well, actually, when you look at the base salary, it's not bad. His cap number is $16,385, but the loss for Arizona is crazy. Oof. It's like, dead money, almost $32 million in dead money.
Jeez,
the cost here because of the cap dollars different than the salary. You're only picking up the salary. The salary is 9.8. That's not bad, but can Arizona afford to take a $31 million cap hit?
No. Well, now they got rid of Kyler. Yeah, perhaps.
Well, they had dead money on Kyler.
Yeah, so, that's the other thing. That's true.
Now they got team cap space. I don't know if the Tyler trade is official, the signing. Yeah, they released it. Yeah. It's got to be in there. Yeah. It shows they got $54 million in cap space, but now that would come down to $24 million, $23 million by trading Sweat.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. All right, last question.
But what do you got? But then it is, what do you got to pay to get him?
Yeah, you're going to have to pay $20 million plus.
No. What do you got to pay in capital?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. You're
And then
talking
how
about,
old is he? How old is Josh Sweat?
let's see. I can do that real quick here with the Google machine. I want to say he's in his late 20s, but maybe I'm way off. Josh Sweat is 28 years old.
Okay, when's it turn?
We'll be 29 in next week.
Okay, so that's the same situation as Crosby.
Yeah.
I just think, again, they could make the trade this afternoon for all we know, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Arizona wants to do it because of the hit. They just took a big hit. They got a new coach. Why do they want to, strap a new coach with a weak team? And it's from the Bears' perspective, they had opportunities to sign edges and free agent and not give up anything in draft capital, and they passed on all of them.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. All right, Rick Saviano has the same question I do. I'm surprised that you didn't give Mike Renner the name Denise Sutton, the Penn State defensive
We
end.
did.
Did you guys talk about him?
Yeah. He doesn't like him as much as I do.
Oh, you're right. I did miss that. Yeah, you like him. He was a little.
He doesn't like him, and he likes him late day 2 into day 3. I like him as a second rounder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
what I do is, and it's it's difference of opinion, but I use. Oh, guys, you got to go back to their. If they didn't play as good this year, you go back to what they did the year before. And you look at what they did the year before. Now you got questions. Okay, why isn't he as good? Okay, and that's where you do your research.
Yeah.
And the point I brought up about him, that Penn State had some obvious problems this year. Head coach gets fired. They're in the playoffs a year ago, and the head coach gets fired this year. Head coach gets fired. This guy gets 6 sacks in his last 5 games.
Yeah. Look at that. So scheme matters.
Well, and on top of that too, and Mike didn't mention this, they had a different DC this year than they had in 24.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, got to take all that into account when you're scouting. All right. One last thing, the compensation pick debate. I heard that the Bears are entertaining the idea of suing the NFL for those picks. Or perhaps what I read was somebody was encouraging the NFL, the Bears, to sue the NFL. Your thoughts on that whole situation?
I jokingly said that myself, sue them, which would not go over well at whatever it is, 405 Park Avenue, or whatever the hell the thing is. But you got to stand up for your own team. I said it last week. Now, Biggs says I'm out of my mind. He goes, I had a text discussion with Biggs and Courtney last week, right after all this happened. And Biggs says it's a dead issue. And I said, why didn't Poles answer the question? He goes, I don't know. I said, well, he said, I'll talk about it at the owners' meeting. He goes, why, if it was a dead issue, why didn't he say we aren't getting them? And he really couldn't answer the question.
Right.
And, and Courtney was kind of like where I was thinking that between George and Kevin, they're still pushing. Ryan's probably out of it. This is above him. And it wouldn't be a surprise to me that they go right to Goodell, whose wife is from Chicago, if it means anything. Then, and just say, hey, this, and see what happens.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times he's not involved in stuff like that. It's the management council that makes those decisions. but he can he's the ultimate boss. He can overrule anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I agree with you, Greg. I don't think it's a totally dead situation. I know Courtney Cronin on ESPN Radio, according to VDog, said that there's just nothing that can be done at this point. But I gotta believe that they still have a shot, a face-to-face, in the same room discussion with the decision makers on this issue. If the Bears can properly prepare, they can.
Ryan answered
the
question. He looked pissed.
He was very pissed.
And he said, I don't want to talk about it now. I'll talk about it at the owners' meeting. Mm-hmm. By pushing it off, he's saying it's not a dead issue.
Yeah.
Indeed. That's my interpretation. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. But it was my total interpretation.
Well, I think, Greg, you and I should get on a plane, go to that owners' meeting, and we do some picketing.
I don't know where the is this year.
It's got to be someplace warm in Chicago.
Well, no, it's Palm Beach, Orlando, Phoenix.
I'll take any of them. I'll take any of them.
Google it right now.
You look it up, and I'll start working on the signs, the picket signs. Give our picks. The Bears demand comp picks. Come up with a good idea for a catchy T-shirt worthy slogan on getting our picks. Chat room will come to the rescue. Best Meat Marinate says the NFL is corrupted. I wouldn't go that far, but man, it sure does make. Oh, it's in Phoenix, according to Eric.
Phoenix. Phoenix.
Look at that. Phoenix, Arizona. It's probably 90 degrees in Phoenix right now, I bet.
Yeah, I mean, they revolve around. They go to Southern California. They go to Phoenix. They go to Orlando. They go to Palm Beach. That's about, it's going to be nice.
Yeah, going to be nice indeed. And while we deal with the snow here, they'll be dealing with making an argument of the comp picks. All right, Greg, anything you want to say before we sign off?
Any news today?
No,
somebody told us.
Yeah, only the Josh Sweat report from Diana Rossini. Other than that, it is.
What did Rossini say now again on that?
That the Josh Sweat is being made available via trade.
Okay, because he demanded a trade last week. I didn't know that Arizona had said they'd agreed to a trade.
Mm-hmm. 85 degrees in Phoenix. And by the way, your thoughts on Justin Fields now signing with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Traded to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Pending a physical, that trade will be consummated. What do you think?
I like it for him.
Yeah. I mean, if
he's going to the quarterback guru.
Yeah, exactly. I also think that he could potentially be used. I know he doesn't want to be the Taysom Hill type player, but that's his calling. He's a gadget guy.
Yeah, here's the thing. Mahomes is better than 50-50. Mahomes isn't ready to go. Mahomes tore his ACL in like a playoff game, or not playoff game, last game of the season, second last game of the season.
Yep.
There's chances he might miss some time.
Yep. And Justin Fields, I believe, started the 2024 season 4-1 with the Steelers. So he proved he can win if he's surrounded by capable coaching and players, which at the time the Steelers had, not so much now. Thank you, Evie, saying it's a great show. Any final words there, Greg?
No, I got to find out who we're having next week. Galco gave us a commitment. I didn't get a date yet.
Okay.
And who would rather have Galco or Edholm?
I want them both, but let's go alphabetically. A, B, C, D, E. Edholm first.
Okay, let me try Eric for next week, and then we'll get Galco the week after.
That would be awesome. I love.
And then once we get past April 4th or around that date, when the Beast comes out, then we'll probably have Dane like the week or 2 weeks before the draft.
Yeah, the Beast is usually out the first week.
It's around the 4th. It's give or take. It's the 4th of April when it comes out.
Gotcha. All right, we'll be looking for that. Always love talking to Dane Brugler. Thank you, everyone who's watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here. You'll get alerts on when we are going live with our programming. Take care, everybody.
See you later. Thank you very much.